Hello, folks. Today, Ricky's gonna talk about what he learned in the college. I'm betting he learned how many beers are in a six pack, but I'll let Ricky talk about it in today's crappy video. Yeah.
Hello, Richard from budgetguitarist.com. And today I'm going to talk about my bachelor's degree in music business, which I received back in 1987. Yeah, so it was a long time ago. Think about what the music business was in 1987. You got the CDs coming out and people are rebuying their entire collection, album collection. It was there was a lot of money in the music business back then. On the other hand, if you wanted a job in the music business, you pretty much had to move. But we'll get into that. Okay. This is 10 things that I learned in college, getting my Bachelor of Science degree in music business. Bachelor of Science stands for BS, which is apropos for the music business. Anyway, let's get into it. 1, there are a lot of jobs in the music business, but you might have to move. Okay, so if you think about the music business then and now, the music business is huge, especially now. There's all kinds of new devices and technologies and things online that never existed before. The HX Stump did not exist when I graduated from college. The thing is, if you want to be involved in any kind of making, manufacturing, advertising, marketing, distribution, any of that kind of stuff, you have to go where the business is. Now, sometimes you can do that remotely, which is sort of a thing that's disrupting the industry right now. There's a lot of guys who work for Sweetwater and they don't live anywhere near the corporate headquarters. So, if you do something that can be done online, then this might not be true. You might not have to move. But if you're into any kind of performing, or any kind of manufacturing, there are a lot of jobs where you're still going to have to be where the action is. If you live in a small town with 6,000 people and there's not even a music store, let alone like a warehouse building amplifiers, and you want to build amps, you got to move. So you have to really think about for your career, like, what are your life goals and what are your career goals? In any field, basically, if you're willing to move, you're going to increase your odds of getting a better job. If you can get something local, you're lucky. Congratulations. Number 2 thing I learned. The second word in music business is business, right? People think of the music business as being like, oh, the rock star who plays the guitar and sings in front of thousands of fans. That's like 0.0001% of the music business. The music business is everything you see in the background right now, except for the lamp and the Afrin nasal spray. That has nothing to do with the music business. Or these mints right here. Just about everything else, though. So from amplifiers to HX Stomp, the PA speakers, guitar, pickups, the electronics that go in it, the keyboards, the mandolin, the Fender clock, the acoustic treatment tiles that are on the back wall. The music business is sprawling and massive. There's just tons and tons and tons of stuff being made and bought by people just like me and just like you. So if you want to make a living in the music business, you certainly can do it, right? If you want to make a living as a rock star, my recommendation would be play the lottery. It's a lot cheaper and you got about the same odds. On the other hand, if you want to be an artist, like a musical artist, you can do that. Nobody's stopping you. Make the kind of music you want to make. And then if you're successful, great, that's a bonus. I think I'm ripping off Steven Wilson right now. Anyway, so 3 goes along with that, which is expand your vision of what the music business is. Maybe you love playing guitar and you love gear. And in the past, you might have thought, well, I could work for Guitar Center and sell guitars. That's about all there is to it. It's like, no. There are a lot of companies that make guitars. There's a lot of online opportunities for talking about guitars and, all kinds of stuff. I can't really give you a big list of every job in the music industry because there's thousands. Do your research. Figure out what it is that you really like, that you don't mind spending a lot of time on. In my case, it's talking guitars. I'm a keyboard player. In high school, I was primarily a keyboard player. I started playing guitar at 16. And I love keyboards and I love synths and recording and all that stuff. But the one thing that I love more than anything else is the electric guitar. I can talk about it all day. I could talk about it all night. I've got a lot of videos on this channel. I've had a website for 6 years where I've been nonstop writing about guitars. So if I were going to make a living in the music business right now, instead of being a web developer, I would be looking at something having to do with guitars. 4, learn where their music business is going, not where it is right now. A lot of people who are successful on YouTube figured this out, right? They set up channels early and they put out videos and they figured out what people were interested in and what they were not interested in. You know, this channel of mine is sort of a hobby. If I wanted to do this professionally, I'd be looking at my analytics a lot more closely. I'd be investing in a teleprompter. There's a lot of things that I would be doing a little bit differently, but the information is there. So, you know, what's going to be big? I'll tell you right now, one thing that I think I want to get into is I think there's a lot of Affinity Strat owners out there, just like there's a lot of Epiphone Les Paul owners out there. And my next guitar, I'm thinking it's going to be an Affinity Strat because they're unbelievable guitars for the money. And I think there's a lot of cool videos I can make on that topic. But in terms of like jobs, this is where the more you know about a section of the music business that you're interested in, the better it's going to help you. You know, and maybe you don't want a career in the music business. Maybe you're just like an older guy like me and you're just watching this video just to see what my opinions are, right? Or what I learned, you know, in college. So that's what this list is. This is what I learned. 5, learning to delegate is smart. One of the biggest lessons I learned in college had nothing to do with the music business. It was a class called Politics in the Soviet Union. We had 2 huge textbooks, and our professor had been to Russia, aka Soviet Union, a ton of times, and he was an expert. And so what he did is up on the board, he wrote down 10 essay questions, like short essays, you know, like write a page or 2 about each. And he said, of these 10, I'm going to pick 2 of them for your final, but you're going to need to be able to answer all 10. So I was sitting there thinking, oh my God, wow, how am I going to do that? But I got in with a study group, and there were basically 10 of us in the group. Each one of us picked a topic, and then we wrote like a 3 to 4 page essay on just that topic and boiled it down to outline form. Then we all duplicated our papers, and so what you ended up with was a quickie Reader's Digest version of all 10 topics. And I think I did pretty well on that final. I can't remember exactly, 80s or 90s, which, you know, for me, that was really good. 6, no one's going to hand you a job. So you can get out of college with that piece of paper. Oh, I got my diploma. Yeah, nobody cares. They really care about, like, can you help them? And if you're going to go to school if you're going to go to college for anything, basically, you need to keep in mind that no one's going to hand you a job just because you have the piece of paper. You have to be willing to go out there and put your name out there, pick up the phone, you know, knock on the doors, go to interviews, talk to as many people as you can. If you're an introvert, it's not easy. If you're in a really good program, they'll have some job placement and they'll help you. But be thinking about the fact that just finishing the program, that's something that goes on your resume. So if you have a 4-year degree on your resume and you're going against somebody who has a 2-year degree, that may or may not be the deciding factor. Mostly people are going to be like, can you do the job? A 4-year degree is proof that you can stick to goals and accomplish something. It's not proof that you're going to be an outstanding employee. 7, if at all possible, get an internship. That's a really, really smart thing to do. One thing that I did in college is I worked for the Small Business Administration, which is like the federal government's department for helping small businesses. And I didn't actually end up using that knowledge directly, but indirectly, I've been using it my entire life. And so when it comes to running a YouTube channel, when it comes to running a website, there's a lot of things that I picked up doing that. And also, it was great experience working with like real clients and, you know, explaining marketing opportunities to them and stuff. The more you can do real world stuff, the better off you'll be. 8, don't mess with the dorm's inactive intercom system. This is something else that I learned. So I was in a co-ed dorm. It was fun. Oh yeah, okay. I lived in a co-ed dorm, and in the 70s they had all the rooms wired up with this intercom system. Well, in the 80s they replaced those with actual phones, telephones on the wall, which is probably, I don't even know if they do that anymore. But they did. But the old intercom system was still there. It wasn't powered up, but all the wires were still connecting all the speakers. So I discovered when I took the plate off the wall that I could connect my guitar amp to the old intercom system, and with a microphone I could broadcast, and it would come out in half the dorm in all of the rooms. And so a bunch of buddies and me got together and did like a little show each day at 6 p.m., which was very humorous, but which did not go over well with the people running the dorm. I was not the guy speaking on the microphone, so I did not get caught. The guy speaking on the microphone got chastised, but it wasn't a big deal, I guess. But still, I was kind of scared. I was like, well, that was stupid. Why did I do that? I did it because I could. Don't do things like that. I learned in college that's a bad thing. Don't do that. 9. Now, this works in college, and it also works in any kind of boring corporate meetings or any kind of trainings or whatever. Okay, whoever's doing the talking, whether it's professor or a boss or supervisor or trainer or whatever, sit very close to the front. Act like you're fascinated in the topic. As soon as you can ask a smart question, raise your hand and ask that question. And if the teacher, professor, person doing the training is asking questions, if you know the answer, shoot your hand up and answer that thing early. So what happens then is they're going to remember you. And also, they're not going to cold call on you like, hey, so does anybody know you? No, because you've already talked, right? You can raise your grade by a letter grade, B to an A, in some cases, just by sitting in the front and pretending to pay attention. I mean, yeah, you will learn some stuff too, but really it's about convincing the professor or the corporate trainer or whatever that, you're an upstanding person. So I learned that in college. And 10, I couldn't memorize. Like, I had to write it down. So if you'll forgive me, I'm just going to read some of the other stuff that I learned. Let's see. So I did learn a lot that helped me tremendously as a musician. And I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that basically I learned how to play guitar in college. But let me go in. So the history of music, music theory, piano, jazz guitar, classical guitar, history of jazz, electronic music composition, audio engineering, physics of sound, analog synthesis, and so much more, including writing, literature, American history, politics in the Soviet Union, statistics, chemistry, biology, marketing, advertising, accounting, philosophy, psychology, and a lot of other stuff. I learned how to write really good papers, and I learned how to meet deadlines. I mean, budgetguitarist.com is my website where I write all the time. I learned how to write in college. Okay, so that takes care of the piece of paper. There's a lot of talk about, oh, college is a ripoff, or, well, do you still need to go to college? This, that, and the other thing. It's such an individual choice, and nobody's got there's no one right answer. There are people who college, it would not make sense for them to go. It just wouldn't. There's other people where it does make sense. I will tell you that for me, it was a fantastic experience. I learned a real lot about everything, basically. But musically, if I hadn't done any of that college stuff, there would be no way that I'd be where I'm at right now, which of course is a hobbyist who doesn't do music professionally. But actually I'd have to say I do music semi-professionally. When I do a gig, I do get paid. I have made money off the music I've recorded, composed and recorded and produced. I have worked in the studio with other people. I have produced other musicians. I'm one of those people who sort of is fortunate enough that I had several hobbies and I was able to just pick the one that paid the most, which is working with computers. I think I said in last week's video, or 2 weeks ago, I guess it would have been, If I weren't doing web development, web design for a living, I'd probably be doing something having to do with music, and I'd write computer programs or make websites for a hobby. So I'm fortunate in that sense. But to kind of sum it up, you get out what you put in when it comes to college, and if you make wise choices about what you're going to study, you can learn a real lot. Sometimes you learn things that have nothing to do with what your job ends up being, but they help you out in life a lot. I mean, I'm just thinking, like, I took piano class in college. I studied analog synthesis in college. I studied audio recording in college. I studied classical and jazz guitar in college. Like, as a musician, it was super beneficial. Even though I didn't major in music, I majored in music business, which at that point in time was two different fields. So if you're trying to decide, like, okay, the music business, should I get into it? Should I go to a college? Should I just keep learning stuff online, etc., and so on? College isn't just about getting a job. College is also about expanding the way that you think and, studying philosophy and history and psychology and things like that at a more advanced level than you did in high school. And for some people, that's a waste of time. They're not interested. For other people, then they can appreciate it. Not all of college was fun. I was forced to read Saul Bellow. If you read Saul Bellow, I apologize in advance, but that was some god-awful bad stuff that I had to read. Ugh. Then I also read some great stuff. But anyway, thanks for listening to this little speech I just did about the music business. Funny for a guy who does music like semi-professionally. I guess this isn't really career advice then. I think this is just like what my experience taught me. It definitely helped me in life. And thank you very much for watching. And I will see you again next Friday at 5.